So we were out one night looking for a couple who were washing their clothes, and somehow their skiff had overturned. It was Dad and I, and then we picked up some other guy who was familiar with the creek back in that area. We come into the creek, and we go one way, and you can still hear them hollering somewhere in the water. Come all the way back around, find them. It's a couple. They were in a like small John boat, and a bass boat had come by, waked them, flipped the boat. So we get to the lady first. She quickly informs us that she does not have any clothes on. So it's like, well, ma'am, it's December 22nd. It's 50 degrees outside. We don't really care. We just need to get you in this boat. So we get her in the boat, put some blankets on her. Her husband is probably 40 yards up the river. He's still standing on the boat, and he is wearing coveralls and a long sleeve shirt. So we're assuming they were washing her clothes last, got flipped. We get him in the boat, commandeer the next dock, and he pulls this huge book bag up on the dock with him, and he pulls out like a single burner stove and lights that puppy off, and they're sitting there around the heat. And you just start racing all these questions through your head, like, why didn't y'all just get in the marsh and put that stove on the boat instead of sitting here in the frigid water? But anyways, the EMTs came and got them, took them off, and that was the last we saw of them. So, wild times.
That sounds pretty fascinating. You kind of ran into a bit of a predicament. And why exactly were you out in the water? How did you get to the point where you were the one who was called, we need to go rescue this people?
Right. So I think it's been 16 years now. I volunteered with the sheriff's office on their boat team. So this was only 3 or 4 years ago that this happened. But yeah, so I got a call. Dad was called too, so we went together, and then we had to pick up the local guy who runs the creeks in the back there. So that's how we got there.
What did that call look like? Was it, because I'm kind of imagining this is your first time serving with the sheriff's department in a volunteer capacity. I imagine the call is like, hey, we've got a lady out here who was washing her clothes. She doesn't have anything on, and she's in peril. And I kind of imagine you stepping up from the phone and saying, you know what, I think it's time for me to protect and serve,
So the original call came out. People in the downtown park could hear somebody screaming from the marsh. As the crow flies, they were probably a quarter mile away. But at that time, the main boat ramp downtown was closed, so we had to go to the one on the other side of town and come all the way around and then start searching from the park around further west to where they were. But originally it was just somebody heard somebody screaming in the marsh, and we went to go look.
Wow. And they were just screaming, help, help, help. She wasn't like, oh, I don't have anything on, help.
No, they were just screaming help. I don't think she was too concerned with her not wearing anything until somebody found her.
Or maybe...
Makes sense.
Maybe... Are there alligators in your creeks?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here's my theory. I hear them referred to as swamp puppies sometimes, so let's refer to them as that.
Doink.
A doink. I assume Miss Jane,
right,
for example, she's trying to tread water. Well, Swamp Puppy's trying to get a good night's rest, and Swamp Puppy isn't real happy with all the commotion going on above him. And so Swamp Puppy, Swamp Puppy sees legs, and so Swamp Puppy goes after legs, thinking it's some type of large,
just a little taste, yeah.
And so somehow this Swamp Puppy, well, I guess they are dinosaurs, so maybe he's been alive for quite some time. He's seen a thing or two about how to get just a tiny bit of lick, tiny taste,
just the toe.
Just the toe.
Tip of the toe. Yep.
Yeah, from the yeah. And so Swamp Puppy comes up. He's real discreet because that's what alligators are underneath the water. You can never know when they are there. And all of a sudden, this Swamp Puppy is right next to this woman, Miss Jane, and suddenly Miss Jane has no clothes on, and I think the only thing that makes sense at that point in time would be that the Swamp Puppy actually took the clothes off of Miss Jane and maybe even clothed himself afterward.
True. The only technicality there is, with the water temperature being that cold, the alligators or swamp puppies were not active. So
I could see how that's a technicality.
A great idea. Yep.
So we're back to square one. How did Miss Jane lose her clothing in the middle of the water?
Doing her own laundry in the salt water. I don't get it.
That was going to be my question. Do you guys typically have? Do y'all have a lot of folks out there washing your clothes in brackish water? I'm assuming it's brackish. It may just be straight up salt
right
water.
There is salt. It's salt right there. Sailboat dwellers are a different breed. They're kind of eclectic people. We kind of knew which boat was theirs because as we were passing by, they had all of their clothes strung across the mast, drying out. So, yeah, they're probably used to washing clothes in salt water. I prefer freshwater clothes washing, but some people like a little less starch and more salt. So
I hear that. Do you know what kind of, could you identify what type of underwear the man wore? Was he boxers, whitey-tighties, maybe briefs?
I don't know, because he was wearing overalls and a long sleeve shirt. I
wasn't sure if he had some hung up already.
No, there's nothing that big. Nothing that really looked like a Maine flag flying off the ship.
So, for our listeners who don't know what a skiff might be, you mentioned that as something that was overturned. Right. What would that be?
So theirs was aluminum, so it was just probably 12 feet, 10 feet long, probably 3 feet wide, something very nimble on the water. The one that myself will not be going out in. I need some more stability than that. So,
is a skiff? Does it have a motor on it, or are you rowing with paddles like a canoe?
So some do have motors. Some people, to get exercise, they will put oars in their oar locks and paddle back to the mainland to get their water, groceries, gasoline for their sailboat motors, which is an oxymoron, but some people really don't like to sail. They just like to say they have a sailboat, and then they'll fire the motor up and drive it out.
It's like the sailing yacht show, reality television show.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, let me just rent this yacht for a week, and that way I can tell all my friends that, we have a yacht timeshare.
Yes. It only happens once every 25 years, but it's a timeshare of sorts.
When my boss wants to pay for it. Yeah.
That's good, man. So one last question from me, at least.
Okay.
This couple, I'm trying to picture the story. They live in the creek. They live on a sailboat.
Right.
And they have a skiff connected to the sailboat. Sailboat,
Right.
no good. Skiff, also no good. And now they're in the water.
Well, the sailboat was fine, but the skiff sits lower to the water, so that's why they were in the skiff, so they could be closer, so they could wash their clothes.
I understand. So these are South Georgian hillbillies.
I don't, judging by his accent, I don't think they were South Georgian hillbillies. So,
If you had to put a geographical guess on it,
Jersey.
I was about to say state and,
Yeah.
maybe a directional identifier with the state, but New Jersey is so small, you don't really, I don't really differentiate North Jersey, South Jersey, whatever.
Yeah.
But you think they were from Jersey, yeah?
Probably. He called it a Johnny boat.
Oof. He's
So,
like, that's what y'all call it down here, right?
yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Well, I'm not going to reveal your name yet because our people don't know it. I'm going to let you do that. But if our listeners remember, Brett mentioned something about frozen shrimp last week.
Yep.
And the hunting and gathering of those frozen shrimp just so happened to be...
I benefited from that.
This guy benefited from those frozen shrimp, and Brett shared the acquirer of those frozen shrimp's name was Dale Williams, who is also seems to be
My father. Or, as my children call him, Papa. Y'all call him Uncle Dale. Yeah. I'm actually in his game room right now. So, after y'all left on Saturday, we had a good storm, knocked out the internet at our house. It's still not repaired, so I had to come bum their Wi-Fi for this podcast. It's the little sacrifices you have to make for a good show, but anything for you boys.
Hey, and your desire and commitment to deep and generous love is not lost on us, and it's not lost on our listeners. So I'm encouraged, and I'm actually challenged to administer more deep and generous love because of you.
It's pretty contagious. Pretty contagious.
You know what they say is when you start, it's hard to stop. And so the more you facilitate and administrate that love, I mean, you just can't stop it.
That's the truth.
It's like a wildfire.
That's right.
It is a wildfire, and let's just say the ground is dry.
Not here. Not here.
No, so it's a strong wildfire.
Yeah, it's got to be a godsend wildfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned a game room.
Yeah.
And whenever you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was Dale with like a $500 chair playing Call of Duty. So what is he?
Yeah.
What does he got in there? Is he rolling a PS5? What's he got in the game room there?
Nothing. I mean, I'm sitting at roll top desk. To my right, I have Mom's sewing table. To the left, there's some different style shadow boxes with some of his achievements. There's some mounted waterfowl around here. Some retirement achievements. So, it's really pretty much the kids' game room, but this is his kind of his sacrifice domain. So.
That's amazing. I love this idea of the waterfowl. Not to be confused with, as we're watching the Olympics, water polo and a fowl in water polo. But what type of, is a waterfowl an animal, and how do you spell it? I'm just asking. I'm asking for our listeners who may not know.
So WATERFOWL.
Yeah.
I had to make sure I spelled it right on my phone first. No, it's just your ducks and geese. So there's actually you can't see it because it's directly behind my head and kind of covered with the pillows, but there's a controversial mallard from 2003. It was my first out-of-state duck trip. We were in the blind on some river in Arkansas. Dad and his buddy that came with us and the guide are talking, and I'm just sitting there looking over the spread. It was very majestic, huge spread. And here comes this lonely mallard just dropping in by itself, and I'm looking around like, are we going to shoot this thing? So I just pull up and take it. So I dispatched it. So I felt that I should have kept it. Being in the 7th grade, I didn't have any money. So Dad mounted it. So technically he gets to keep it. But it is in the will that it comes with me at the time of his passing. So
That will be controversial no more.
That was really the hook, my hook for waterfowl hunting. Before that, I had been pretty much the bird dog around here, just going and picking up birds and stuff. And then Dad took me to Arkansas and let me shoot, and it's been a fun ride ever since. So.
Yeah, that's actually quite beautiful.
Yeah.
And how amazing and kind of you to put that poor mallard out of its loneliness. You know, that mallard,
right.
He needed
at that
a home.
time of the year, he'd obviously lost his mate hen, and he was, I mean, they call them greenheads, but you could tell he was looking kind of blue coming down the pipe there. So
I mean, he was pretty much asking to be shot.
Yeah,
I mean, from the sound of it.
Hey, he was kamikazing in, going, "Where's that little kid that needs a memory?" You know.
I got you. Kid.
Yeah, I got you, my boy.
He's like, here, let me just hover about 10 foot away from the blind.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and tailspin. So
that's pretty special. And so, I know you can't share a ton about what you do for work because you're extremely important, but how did that experience and memory lead to what you do now, whether through your profession and now volunteering for the Sheriff's Department? How did those connect to each other? Because I know that's a big part of your story.
Which one? The Sheriff's Office and the hunting?
Sheriff's Office, Lockheed, and the controversial mallard.
Oh. Well, one day when I have my own office, I'll put it in there. I might just come steal it, and he'll be like, "Where's my duck at?" I'll be like, "That's in my office now." So I work for Lockheed Martin, right? When my dad retired, he was at a certain level, what we call a building group lead. I came in, I worked on the floor for 13 years, decided that's probably what I want to do, like just get to that level and then ride that for a little while. So at 33, I decided to go to college. I went and got my associate's degree, and start applying for the next step up interview with a couple different positions, and finally the one I did get was an assistant BGL, which is one step below where he retired from. So now all I got to do is one step up and ride that for a little bit. But going from the floor for over a decade to sitting at a desk, I decided I probably need to do something a little more physical than walk the floor and watch other people work. So that's when I decided to start cutting grass.
Yeah, and what's
Is that the segue you were looking for?
I wanted the Lord to work.
The lead? Okay. Yeah. So I was to the point I could either get a gym membership that inevitably I was not going to use, like I was just going to pay to keep their lights on, or I could get out 1 or 2 days a week and get paid to sweat. So I'm a capitalist. I like making money. So.
And what is the name of your company here, if you don't mind? We'll give it a
after
plug.
long thought, I just decided to go with Williams Lawn Care, something, good family, hometown name, nothing crazy, no big gimmicks, just a name and what you do. Turn tall grass into short grass and go. So, nothing crazy.
And when you say tall grass, do you have a preferred type of grass to cut? Because I know there's a lot of lawn knowledge out there, and some of our listeners may be thinking, man, should I go Centipede? Should I go Bermuda? Should I go St. Augustine? And I think a lot of it depends on where you live, but I wanted to ask the professional what his thoughts were.
So if I have St. Augustine, I like to go high, mainly like 4, 3 3/4, 3.5, maybe 4 at the tallest. So that would be, putting it in perspective, like your hair would be St. Augustine, right? It's very luscious. You like to see good length on it. Mine would be more Centipede. You get to drop it a little lower, probably 2.5, 2 3/4. In the morning time, Brett's is like Bahia. It's just kind of shooting all over the place.
That's right.
Yep, there you go, just like that. So Bahia is always hard to mow because the stalk is so thick. And if your blades, you can go mow 1 yard and start dulling your blades, and then the next yard you're going to have to come back and cut it twice because that stalk's just so hard. So.
You ever gnaw on a good long Bahia stalk?
Hey, sometimes I pull one before I start mowing just to have something to do while I'm mowing.
That's right. That's a unique taste. It's a good flavor, though.
Yeah. So
when you're out there mowing, I know you just mentioned you gnaw on a Bahia stock, but what are some of the things that keep you entertained while you mow? Because I feel like it can get repetitive, and because you're a professional, you've done it so many times, it's not like you're thinking, oh, what can I do differently this time? Though there's room for growth, everybody has it, but as far as entertainment goes, you have anything you do?
You can figure out a lot of the world's problems when you're sitting there mowing by yourself for long periods of time. Every yard's different. Sometimes they move stuff around the yard, especially people with small families. They might have a blow-up pool one week, might not have one the next week. Sometimes you try to adjust your cut, so change the angle a little bit. If you're into the stripes, sometimes you try to cross cut, make it look like a checkerboard. But yeah, usually just thinking about what's next. Some yards you're thinking about, how am I going to get out of this one because it's such a pain. But I haven't dropped anybody yet, so.
Oh, will you? What is the upcharge associated with doing some diagonal stripes or maybe a checkerboard or something like that? Is there an upcharge associated?
No, it just depends on how generous I'm feeling that day. I mean, you're going to get stripes regardless because I'm going
Right.
to stripe it while I'm mowing. But if you want something fancy, which I'm not the fanciest guy, but I mean, I can do a checkerboard. But the only upcharge I like to put out is if I'm doing an estimate and notice that there's a lot of dog scat, then like I know you're not going to clean it up, then I'm probably going to put a hefty 20% on top of it. So, but you learn tricks. Like if you know it's a yard that's like that, you just wear some old slick down hey dudes. So whenever you get back to the truck, you just wipe it on the grass, clean them off, change your shoes, and roll on.
Dang.
But it's just those little tricks of the trade, you know?
Yeah, and
tricks.
that makes sense. And that leads me into another question is, if we're thinking about young entrepreneurs who may be desiring to start a lawn care business, well, what would maybe 4 tips be the most important things to know before you start your own lawn care business?
Let me get ready here. One is you want the money, but don't be afraid not to take a yard. So if they call you over there and the backyard's a hot mess, the ground's uneven, it's going to be terrible to work it. It's okay not to take it. Another one is when you're weed eating, always start from the right because your trimmer head spins to the left. So if you start on the right side, it's always kicking it back in the yard. That way you don't worry about slinging rocks into windows or grass into flower beds. Always always run a leaf blower. So you don't want to go over there and leave a mess. People have asked, like, can you just come mow it and then I'll weed eat and run the blower? And no, I can't. Because if I leave and it takes you 3 days to blow it off, then the guy that was sitting across the street will associate me with not cleaning up my job. So, hustle. When you get there, you take a break after, like, get there, knock it out, and then you can take a break after. So, unless it's super hot, like I might go and grab some water out of the truck in between mowing and weed eating, and then, but usually once the mower comes off and once the gate comes back up, and I just run it, and then you can take a break when you get done. So I saw a kid at the gas station yesterday. He had a cart with a push mower in it, and he would use the push mower to push the cart to get to the next yard. And it was like, go get it, So I did pull up to a yard Friday in the neighborhood. The kid next door was mowing his yard and didn't know where the line was. So he had already mowed half of the side yard. So I backed my mower off and I looked, and he was like taking a break by the front door, and I just asked, I was like, hey man, you need some water or something? He's like, no, I'm good. So his mom came out to finish. I didn't know he had already done the backyard and then started working the front yard. So I mowed the front yard a little bit and then went over and I said, here's $10. Tell your kid thanks for mowing half the front yard or half the side yard. Like, so just to try to, like, hey, I could probably make some money at this, because a kid in a neighborhood, because he knows all the neighbors, if they're like a good neighborhood, and old people love slinging little kids money for not having to sweat. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can come cut my grass. And that's one of the challenges being a sole owner is, like, how am I going to compete with this 12-year-old who's doing it for $20 whenever I come and have a minimum of $50? But
It's tough.
I'm not
but
out there for half a day.
Right.
You know?
Right. You're not going to be laid up under an oak tree in their backyard chugging a Gatorade after cutting half their yard because you got a push mower, you know?
Right.
That's the last thing people want to see.
Right. One thing I have started doing whenever I go to blow the driveways off and the back porches, I go ahead and crank my truck up and get the air conditioner rolling.
Oh, smart man.
Because, yeah. Yep. But yeah, that's my 4. So don't be scared to turn them down. Start trimming from the right. Always run the leaf blower and just hustle. So
I love it. I'm pretty inspired. That's one of the things that I've missed not owning a home is there's no grass to cut. There's no lawn to take care of. Of course, there's proverbial lawns we all need to take care of. And so, actually, to be quite frank with you, the physical lawn, the lack of the physical lawn has helped me take care of the proverbial and metaphorical lawn more. So there's a praise in that, you know. There's a thankfulness in that, but I still hold to my point that physical labor and satisfaction of mowing your lawn or mowing a lawn is just beautiful.
Well, and that's where the idea originally came from. I was mowing my own grass, and I was sitting there, and I was running, and I was thinking, you know what? I have a zero turn. I have some good trimmers. I have a trailer sitting over there. I have a commercial backpack blower. I might as well use them more than once every 2 weeks. So
a backpack blower is pretty awesome.
Yep.
You're gonna have to share a photograph with us. Maybe you should do a vlog. That grow the business, do a vlog, day in the life of Williams Lawn Care.
Yeah. What is it? Hey, come mow with me.
Come mow with me. Yes.
Yeah, come mow with me. Yeah. Yeah. Make a TikTok.
I was going to say, there's a lot of folks that started out that way, and then they just started doing some time lapse videos of their cuts, and now they probably make more on YouTube and TikTok than they do actually cutting grass.
Yep.
Which is pretty crazy.
And not doing the business for too long, I feel like I always undershoot like one-time mows, because usually by the time you get called for a one-time, it's gone. Like the grass is up to your knee. You're cutting it 2 or 3 times, and then you're like, man, well, I already told them this price, so I guess I'll have to eat it. But if they call me again, it's definitely going to be up. So
yeah.
I did a one-time mow yesterday, and same thing, out in between the sidewalk and the road. It was knee high. Had to mow it 3 times, and the utilities company just come out, so there were a bunch of the flags. So then it's like trying to slalom down a ski slope, you know. And then you got to get out there and weed eat and try to get as close to the stake as you can without slinging it across the yard.
Oh man,
that one I opened the back. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I cut some grass in high school, and a weed eater with one of those markers. A lot of times it was just the purple ones for like irrigation, but man, I would just blow right through them. Like, look, y'all got these things up. You're asking me to cut your grass. I'm just gonna blast through them. So
we so a buddy of mine, he also cuts grass after work, and he has a commercial property, and I've helped him mow it probably 3 times now, and they have yet to bury the internet line across the back of this field.
Nice.
So, I got to where I mow a strip down next to it, and then I pick it up and hold it in my hand and send it to the other side of the mower, and then I drop it and then continue on. Like, but it's fun. It's it's something to do. It's nice being able to go out, and even though you're making money, like, you're still out in the community, putting your face out there. And that's one thing you got to remember, back to the point, like, neighbors talk. So in my mind, if somebody asks that house, hey, who cuts your grass? And they're going to be like, well, that's the guy from Williams Lawn Care, right? So they already have an opinion on whether or not you do a good job or not, because they're already asking the neighbor. So you just want to make sure everything looks good whenever you leave, even if it's a complete mess whenever you get there. But I don't bag, so it's just not in my wheelhouse. But I definitely blow the driveway, sidewalks, back porch. There isn't grass in public walkways whenever I leave. So blowing the road's a big thing for me. Even in a neighborhood, just getting grass off the curb back into the yard. So,
What does you don't bag mean?
so all the clippings go back into the yard.
Oh, you don't bag the grass or the
Right.
leaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got you. I thought you were. I was assuming and thinking about sanding. You don't sandbag, like put
No.
bags of sand on the grass.
No, that isn't efficient. That's how you level your yard. It's just like a golf course. You
Oh,
go
yeah?
and you spread sand across the greens and level it out. I do have one yard. I don't know how it got into the shape it's in, but it's like riding across a checkerboard. And surely they didn't checkerboard the front lawn whenever they built it, but I mean, you're just going across and the mower's doing this the whole time.
I'll tell you, man. When I was maybe a senior in high school, we talked about people wanting to give you money when you're young because you'll work for dirt cheap, pun
Right.
intended. Well, absolutely. I mean, it's money, and you're 18, 17. So, I was working in this guy's yard, and he had 2 dump trucks of sand brought in. And
So
you
like
wanna know-
36 yards. Yeah.
You want to know what tools we had to spread it? And it was
A
the
soft
entire
rake?
yard. It was the entire yard.
A shovel and a rake.
Yeah.
A shovel and a wheelbarrow. It was absolutely incredible. It took so long. It was almost comical. But
He couldn't have gone and bought y'all a rake.
maybe we did have a rake. But yeah, we at least had a wheelbarrow, so
Yeah.
we could load it up and carry it to the backyard. But
Yeah.
it was fun. It was long and it was hot.
Yeah. I just
But
bought a wheelbarrow yesterday for a hedge trimming job that I locked in. So
So you
One of my
won't blow
customers-
hedge trimmings. You'll wheelbarrow them.
Well, so this neighborhood, they'll pick them up from the side of the road. But she's got a big myrtle that she needs trimmed up, and then some azaleas. So I went and bought a 10 cubic foot wheelbarrow, dual wheel. So I don't want it tipping. Hey,
dual wheel.
yeah. Hey, we're doing big things here at Williams Lawn Care.
I thought you said the neighbors talk. They're like, man, this dude's got bad balance, huh?
Yeah. Actually, that client, her neighbor was out the other day working in his yard in not the largest bathing suit. It felt like very South Florida in Kingsland, Georgia.
And this is on a man.
Yeah. Very tan man, but yeah.
Like that
It's
of
like-
leather.
Well, yeah, pretty much. It's like, I'm going to go to this side of the yard here. Till him and his dog go back inside. But no, it's
Now,
fun.
Andrew-
You get to, what you got?
No, I was gonna change the topic, but if you
Okay.
if you had something else,
I was just going to wrap it up. You get to meet some good people. I have one client. She lives in Japan, so it's just one of those. Go mow, send her the request on whatever form of payment she uses, and yep, it's just nice. Get out and get your face out. Show people that you can still get out and work. That you didn't grow up on video games. It's good times.
That's right.
Make money. Stack. Get some mow money. You know what I'm saying?
Mow money. Mow money. Mow problems.
Money. Yeah.
I do want to. I think we're going to talk about our weeks a little bit. I do want to hear. Whenever we talk about your week, I want to make sure you include your recent success at a certain Ducks Unlimited raffle.
Okay.
So
I
want to make
That's
sure
fine.
the folks can hear about that, because it is one of the greatest and luckiest nights
It wasn't bad.
really of all time. So, but Bo, do you want to tell us about your week a little bit?
Oh yeah, I'll hit some highlights here. So Tuesday night, Life Group. It's a classic. We're getting close to wrapping up our study in Malachi, and this time we were Malachi chapter 3, and Malachi has 4 chapters, believe it or not. And I would recommend believing it. Well, the beauty of Malachi is it's actually pointing us to our need for Jesus ultimately. It's the people of Judah / Israel continually rejecting God, yet God continually pursuing them, which is this real conundrum that we see, and we look at that and like, why? What's the point of that? Yet we don't realize that we are the same as the people of Israel. We reject God every single day. Anytime we sin, we are rejecting God from an unbelief that God is going to work things out. This other idea, the second idea that we learn in Malachi, is the people think they're doing good, and they're not. So then they actually say, well, what's the point of following Jesus? Or what's the point of following God? Jesus doesn't exist yet. What's the point of following God if it's not benefiting us? And so then there's a serious problem, because we have to define, what does it mean to benefit us? What is good? You see in Romans it says, God works everything for the good of those who love him. Well, what does good mean? Good doesn't mean what you and I think good means. Not this scale of what our society says good and bad is. Good, defined, is anything and everything that makes us more like Jesus. And so, working things out for our good means to work things out for us to become more like Jesus, not what we desire. Because those two things are different pretty often, at least in my life, and God continually helps me realign and say, no, you may think that's good right now, but it's not going to be. Or vice versa, you may think that's bad right now, but this is actually leading you on a path where you become more like Christ, and ultimately that is what's good. And so Malachi is kind of drawing this out and pointing this to the people of Israel, but also to us as the readers today. And so I've been blessed by that study. I'm excited to continue it. Wednesday night rolls around, play pickleball with Ryan and Megan Mert and Mando Bando, the Big Red Machine. Just a classic time together. Throughout the week, here's a little insight into my profession. We're setting up this television for sermons on Sunday, and so you have to have multiple wireless transmitters that transmit signal over certain wavelengths and certain channels through certain computers to a certain TV. So my work this week was getting all that figured out, and one of those works and parts was mounting a big 65-inch television both horizontally and vertically. And that was just an absolute hoot. and you have to roll it. So we're excited for that. I've learned a lot, but the whole wireless transmission between different devices, locking things down. So say Brett shows up to church on a Sunday and he is on a certain Wi-Fi that broadcasts over a certain wavelength. I need to make sure Brett then cannot hack into the television and display some sort of inappropriate image over for the 500 people or so to see in the service. So that would be one of the critical things that we're working into. I really do need a hacker on my work team to really kind of de-hack, make this thing unhackable. But anyway, that's fun. Saturday comes, and Saturday I actually gather with a new friend. His name is Josh Dixon, and we play pickleball again with Ryan and Megan Mert. You can sense a theme. And it's a great theme, honestly. Thursday night, I went backwards in my timeline because I wanted to share. Well, who hosts us at our house for a game night? Ryan and Megan Mert. So Josh Dixon and his wife Abby are there, as well as Mando Bando, the Big Red Machine, and his wife Hannah, as well as Evan Haynes, El Rada Alada, and his wife Hallie. And so I just praise God for that group of people, because it's just so awesome to see how God works. Because just 3-4 months ago, Ryan and Megan Mert weren't even in Gainesville, and you see God working and interweaving and using them to bring people together in order that His name may be glorified. And so that's pretty awesome to see and get to be a part of. Then Saturday evening is the young adult cookout, where we gather and eat hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Well, have y'all ever had an ice cream sandwich?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever, from Publix, they sell these little tiny cookies with chocolate chips and some type of cream in the middle. Not an oatmeal cream pie, but they're miniature. Well, those, one, are delicious. They taste like they're terrible for your health, which is probably why they're delicious. And I was pondering, why not freeze those? And then I bet they'd be absolutely incredible as an ice cream sandwich. I haven't tried it, but if our listeners are out there looking for something to do with their time, I'd recommend it. Sunday rolls around. It's a great day at church. Richie Baldwin preaches on Jesus saying, "I am the true vine." One of the things that we take for granted is how controversial that statement is. And any I am statements, I mean, Jesus is literally proclaiming that He is the Messiah. Now, imagine put ourselves in those people's shoes, like, well, dude, you can't just come in here and claim you're the Messiah. So you can understand kind of why they might be a little hesitant to believe, but to be honest, Jesus is right. Jesus is the Messiah. And so we have to abide in Christ. That's the application there. And abiding looks like remaining, staying faithful in Christ, and the action leads to making disciples. Because I think the Bible clearly says our faith and our salvation and our abiding in Christ looks like advancing the message and the gospel of Christ, and pointing people to Jesus points ourselves to Jesus at the same time. And so then we wrapped up. We're here now. It's been a great day. That's my week in a nutshell.
Look, dude, it sounds like it was, sounds like you had a lot of pickleball, which is pretty typical for you. Richie Baldwin, obviously we were in Gainesville last week, and they mentioned that Richie was going to be preaching. I was jealous because I mean, obviously there's streaming platforms and things like that, so I'll have to go back and listen. But yeah, Richie's a special dude. He's a special guy, and he knows how to sling it from the pulpit, per se.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that statement, man. It's a fact, and I'm just thankful, I've been testing out my knee a little bit because I have what the doctors seem to think is a torn meniscus. I have an MRI this upcoming Wednesday, but I've been testing it out with all this pickleball, and the Lord's just been gracious. The pain is minimal. I also have been putting in the work in the gym, kind of backwards walking on treadmills, doing my stretches, but I'm thankful that it hasn't given out yet. So hopefully the MRI will give me answers as to what the next steps may be. But yeah, pickleball, man, it's just an absolute blessing. And kind of like Andrew said, is people, you got to get out in the community. You got to get your face seen, not because you want your face seen, but because it actually gives you an opportunity to connect with people on a deeper level versus if we were sitting in our houses cooped up. And so ultimately it comes down to the question of where do we spend our time, and is it glorifying to God? And there are plenty of people who are out in the community who spend their time out in the community and doing things not glorifying to God. And so maybe that's not the answer for everybody, but in this point in my life, it is the answer for me.
Solid.
Yeah, solid for sure. I'll say the whole meniscus thing, it sounds like a really detailed, it sounds like a cop-out for not doing Gainesville Run Club. Like, you're able to play pickleball, but, unfortunately I can't do I just figured, the day of the run club or the day before, I figured I'd go for a run. And man, let me tell you, I jacked up my knee. And unfortunately, I'm never going to have to go back.
Yeah, you actually bring up a good point there, because Wednesday was the first time I had been on it, so I wanted to take a rest. But Thursday, that was the merch house, so I couldn't do it then. Then Saturday, I didn't go as light as I did on Wednesday during pickleball. I kind of amped it up a little bit. I still felt good. And so right now, my desire, if I can see the results of the MRI, if I know I have a torn meniscus, I probably won't go run on Thursday. But if I have the results of the MRI and I know what they say, and they say it's not a torn meniscus, then I would really like to go to the Gainesville Run Club. But you bring up a good point, is I'm just a pansy and a wuss that isn't willing to go out and risk anything. And it makes sense, because I asked you to hold me accountable to that, and I still haven't done it. And so as much as you can lay into me, I will receive that. Or sling it on me, as you previously mentioned.
Right. Well, I think I slung it on you pretty good, but yeah, you're not really one who's a risk it for the biscuit kind of guy. You're a Mary B's biscuit risker, and I'm a Grand's flaky and buttery with some grape jelly biscuit risker.
Yeah, like a bread, I'd say. Grand's is more like a dinner roll.
That's Sister Schubert.
Oh no, Sister Schubert has entered the chat.
Brett likes his Kaneka sausage. Sister Schubert's.
Sister Schubert's, they've got those the sausage rolls. The sausage rolls are unbeaten.
No longer. I think they discontinued.
They did, and they came out with a pinwheel, like a sausage pinwheel, to kind of take the place. I about burned the Publix down whenever I saw that they had discontinued the dang sausage rolls and went with these weird sausage pinwheels. So I forgot about that, and I'm enraged all over again.
Glad I can bring some heat to the conversation.
Yeah.
Real.
So, well, speaking of heat, Andrew, what are some highlights from your week?
So my schedule throughout the week's pretty much blacked out from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. Hold on a minute. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Well, hey, man.
Hey, hold on. I'm on the podcast.
Okay.
All right. Hang tight. Hey, Uncle Donald's here.
Uncle Donald, baby.
Uncle Donald. Dad's
Welcome, Uncle
little
Donald.
brother. Yep. It's kind of eerie when you're in the house by yourself and you hear somebody saying hello.
Yeah. So are you?
Yep.
So
Anyways, go ahead.
So you, I don't want to get off topic too much, but you're
Okay.
saying you're alone right now. Well, you and
Yeah.
Uncle Donald
Well, I
are
thought I
together
was alone
in the
until-
game room.
Yeah. Well, no, he's in the den.
Is he
there.
sitting on that top bunk there?
No, he's not on the top bunk.
Uncle Donald, where'd you come from?
Yeah. Holly's Island of all places. No, so let's see. Monday didn't do too much. Wednesday I had band practice and I filled in with the youth band. And then Thursday mowed 2 lawns to try to cut the numbers down for Friday. Friday mowed 4. I was planning on working on a commercial property Friday afternoon, so I pushed 2 of my residentials to Saturday. Got rained out Friday afternoon, knocked out the 2 residentials Saturday morning, and then started on the commercial one yesterday afternoon and got rained out for that too. I think we got 2 inches of rain yesterday. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the hot spot of my week. Are we ready for the DU story, or is that later?
I'd say.
I want to
I'd
ask.
say- Yeah.
I
Go.
was
for
going
it.
to say. I was going to ask one question, then you can go to your DU story.
Okay.
Do you have a playlist that you listen to while you're cutting grass, and B, do you sing it as loud as you can? Because I really, throughout my life, there's several different situations. You're in the shower, it's loud in the shower, so I'm singing
Right.
in the shower. Everyone else in the house can hear me singing Kenny Chesney as loud as possible. It also applies to when you're on the mower. It's loud, but people, down the street can hear you singing Kenny Chesney, right? And then also when you're on the
Right.
boat and you're trying to have like an embarrassing conversation while you're running the boat, and you think it's so loud, but people on the bank can hear you clear as day. You know what I mean?
Right.
So are you a singer while you're out there working in the mines?
No,
or?
not really. I tell you what's a really good mix is the, quite frankly, song of the week. It is, I usually listen to it at work. I chomp away at work. But when I'm mowing, usually I'll listen to a podcast or something. So,
Dang.
'cause you don't want your music too loud in case you want to be able to hear a rock sling out from under the deck or something. So
Right.
just something you can have low, just running. So
Makes sense.
yep. So
tell us about
but
this.
yeah,
This
song of
great
the week's
windfall.
fire. Okay, so our next county down in Florida, the town to the west started their own Ducks Unlimited chapter. So last year was their inaugural banquet. Went to that with my dad and Abby. Spend some money on raffle tickets because you can't go and not spend money on raffle tickets.
Right. And this is this in Yulee or Callahan? Where is this?
Well, so it's in Callahan, right? It's the Callahan chapter. So they have this Cottonwood Ranch. The guy owns Duval Asphalt, huge property, has a bunch of exotic animals out there.
Tiger King.
Pablo.
No, not that. Just like axis deer. He's got some axis deer, some weird longhorn stuff from Africa. At one time he was running a high fence, so he's got some huge whitetail. He actually donated a hunt this year for the live auction for one of the exotic deer, and I think he said a minimum 160-inch whitetail. So last year we went, spent money on raffle tickets. I won a waiter bag, which I didn't even know what it was. It was like one of the only things left on the table. So I just grabbed it, Googled it on the way home, figured out what it was. It came in handy going to Arkansas because it didn't take up as much space as just laying your waders across everything. So we get to this year. A guy from work that invited me last year is on the committee for this chapter. So he said, "Hey, would you want to come help with the event? Get there early. We'll set everything up. You can help sell cups, whatever." Well, they have Ducks Unlimited sends people to sell raffle tickets. So I was like, "Yeah, man, sure, no problem." Got a Columbia shirt, had the chapter embroidered on it, So we get in there, and of course, once it gets going, you're kind of done until the end when you clean up. So the lady came by, and they have some bundles for tickets. It was I can't remember what the cost of that bundle was, but it wasn't cheap. It wasn't the cheapest, but it wasn't the most expensive. So I think I spent the same amount last year. So I probably spent $400 in tickets last year, in raffle tickets last year, and then this year I spent $490 in raffle tickets because it goes for a good cause. It's all about protecting the wetlands and all this stuff. And I like winning stuff. I hardly ever win anything, so it's always like out there for the grab. So rewind to setting everything up. We're putting these guns together, and I'm putting this one shotgun together, and I was like, man, my dad just bought one of these in a different gauge, and then the next one I was like, yeah, this one isn't bad, just start putting all these guns together, put them on the racks, because you have different colored tickets for different colored tables. So if they start calling blue whatever, then you just go pick something off that blue table, red 102 whatever. So it comes time for the first raffle. They had already done some live auction stuff. So I was telling my buddy, I was like, hey man, that Super Black Eagle 3, my dad just got one in 12 gauge. I like shooting wood ducks with a 20 gauge. I said, that'd be funny if I won it. So right before they called the number, I was like, if I'm going to get that Super Black Eagle, I got to be the first one. Sure enough, it was a blue ticket, 6'9", whatever. I said, whew.
Nice.
Got up, and it's so packed in there, you have to like snake your way through all these tables. And I don't know why I was in such a hurry, because I hadn't called another ticket yet,
You're like, hurry.
But, what? Yeah, right. I was about to start hopping tables,
Before someone steals it.
Yeah, right, yeah. So I grab it and take it to the back, and they write your name down and what gun you won, and then they take that. And then so I come back, and my buddy's like, oh, man, that's cool. And earlier in the evening, he had his eye on this 20 gauge over and under. So he was like, man, I just need to win that 20 gauge over and under. I was like, oh, well, it might be a good night for you too. So I'm sitting there, and they call me for something else. So I go back up there, and I get a new blind bag, which at the end of last season I had bought a nice banded backpack blind bag. So I was like, well, luckily, we're going on this trip later. Brother-in-laws are coming. They'll need blind bags. They can just use this. As soon as I get back to the table, they hit me again. And the only thing left on that board was the Bergara rifle, which I'm not a rifle shooter. I understand they're great equipment, just not my thing. And that 20 gauge over and under that my buddy wanted. So I just snagged that up too, and I get back to the table, and he had a little too much to drink. So then he was like, hey man, I'll give you $300 for that shotgun right now. And it's like, nah, I'll sell you a shotgun for $300, but it's not going to be this one, So, after I won the Benelli, I was like, I couldn't stop giggling. I was like, it was it. Like, just that one, I had already made my money back for the last 2 Ducks Unlimited banquets and 2 Wild Turkey Federations. So we get done and we're cleaning everything up, and I get to the truck and we're out in the middle of nowhere, so there's no cell service. So I finally get on some country road and cell service pops in. I'm texting Abby. I was like, you're not going to believe what happened. And she's sleeping when I get home, so I can't tell her. Wake up the next morning and she's like, what happened? And I said, I won 2 shotguns. And she was like, oh, because we need more of those. I said, no, I don't think you understand. I won 2 nice shotguns. She goes, okay. I was like, okay. Well,
Okay.
I made my money back. And she was like, well, that's nice. That's nice. All the money you spent over the years on tickets, it's nice you finally made your money back. So she's like, you go to one banquet without me and you rack up. And I was like, maybe. I was wearing some Duluth buck nakeds with some mallard ducks on them. So they were my lucky duckies, you know.
That'll do it.
But that'll do it. I got them in the dresser for next year. See if it'll
The
pan
one
out,
time a
you
year.
know? Yeah. Don't touch those. Don't touch it. But yeah, so that was. I mean, it was a blessing, really, because I invite people to hunt all the time. They don't have all the equipment. It's like, man, just come on. I got you covered. I got shells, weapons, whatever. So I just need you to get here so you can see what everybody else is seeing, and then you'll be hooked and you'll want to go buy your own stuff. And then the addiction starts. So
I'll tell you, I've never been duck hunting, but I'd go with you.
yeah,
If you
every
if you allow
weekend
me.
from Thanksgiving to the end of January.
Wow.
So
I think I hear a subscriber-only vlog in the future.
we can do it.
Is what it
We
sounds
can
like.
do it.
All expenses unpaid duck hunting trip for our subscribers. Meaning our subscribers can come, they would just have to pay.
Yeah. You gotta get an out-of-state license, duck stamp, all the legal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure we can make it happen.
And that's the
where there's
beauty
a
of
will, there's a
volunteering
way,
at the
you know what I mean?
sheriff. Oh yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, yep. So we've brought some of Dad's coworkers out, and next thing you know, they're buying shotguns. We actually went and took one of them Friday evening to go break in his new shotgun for this upcoming duck season. So, yep.
How much food do you get from one duck?
So, like, what are the parts, or like poundage?
How many? If you were to kill one duck and cook
Right.
it, all parts, all edible parts, how many meals would that last you protein wise? How many servings?
Probably 2. If you do
Okay.
a whole duck. So, I do breast, tenders, and in the last 2 years, I started pulling the heart out. So, yep.
Gizzard.
But it takes, no. I mean, if times are tough, I would take the whole bird, but, no. It takes, I put them side by side one day. It takes like 6 ducks to equal 1 Canada goose, but yeah.
But that's pretty good though. I mean, one duck
Yeah.
serves 2.
Yeah.
Nice
good.
romantic dinner for 2.
But if you're doing the whole bird,
Right.
yeah. But some ducks are bigger. Like your species is different sizes. So your teal are definitely smaller. Probably one-hitter quitters on those. One
Your
whole teal for
waterfowl.
one person. Right.
Have you ever texted Abby and said, "Hey Abby, I got dinner covered. You got some candles lit and you're sharing You're sharing a romantic
Some
dinner
duck.
over some nice duck.
Yeah. No, she doesn't. She'll try it probably once a year, but she's not about it. So I usually end up cooking it for work. I used to cut it into chunks and then just do panko and flash fry. Lately, I've been doing just smoking the breast and heart. So, yeah.
It sounds gamey.
No, well, I mean it is, but it all depends on how long you let it bleed out. So, put it on some ice water or just napkins in the fridge. So.
And how do you smoke the heart? Or is that like Camels or Marlboro, or what are you rolling there to get the heart?
Yeah, Camel Blues, baby. No, I mean, just throw it on with everything else. So hit it with some touch of cherry seasoning. There you go.
Did you just say touch of cherry seasoning or touchy cherry seasoning?
Touch of cherry.
Touch of cherry.
Seasoning. Yep.
I would like one touch of cherry, please, on my duck.
There you go. Yeah.
Dude, that's exciting, man. I love it. Well, Brett, what have you been up to? Some highlights.
Well, this week was it was a unique one for sure. My mom came into town Tuesday. She was supposed to fly in, I think, Tuesday afternoon. Her flight out of Pensacola got canceled, so she rents a car and drives 8.5 hours down to Sarasota. So, absolute saint. That is, that's a tough move, having thinking you're going to be sitting on a plane for like an hour and a half, just a chillax day, and now you're driving through weather. I mean, it was bad weather the whole day, pretty much. All the way down 8.5 hours to Sarasota. No fun. So kudos to her on that one. But it really just shows the dedication, I think. That night we had some, I think Molly made some barbecue chicken or something like that. We ate on that the first couple nights. Thursday, I believe it was, we went to this place called Cooper's Hawk. And they do, it's a little fancier, and we were eating a little later than usual. With Stetson, we like to get him in bed by 7:30. And if he's out in public after 6:30, 7 o'clock, it's like he's a totally different kid. He's so dang sweet and gentle before that. But I think he understands the power that he wields. So he was not having a great time that night. So we ate dinner. I think we got dessert to go or something like that. And it was yummy for sure. But we were just having to take turns taking him outside, letting him run around in the parking lot, basically. Because he was amped up, but not in a good way. And then Friday rolls around. My dad flew in on Friday. I'm trying to think what we did on Friday. I'm sure we went out to dinner. I'm forgetting it now. Saturday, yesterday, it was, man, we were going to go out and we went on a walk, which was nice, 2.5 miles around the neighborhood. And we were going to go to the pool that afternoon, but it just, like the past 2 weeks, anytime in the afternoon, there's just lightning popping all around, showers. So if you're going to hit the pool, you got to get it while the getting's good, because you're liable to get struck by lightning at any moment in time. Even if there's no clouds around, it'll hit you. So unfortunately we couldn't make it to the pool, but we did go out to dinner at this place called Agave Bandito, which is like 10 minutes from our place, and it's new, but it was so good. Like me and Molly were talking about, we got to go back there soon. So it was a Mexican place. It's kind of got the, I I don't know. It's kind of got the Dia de los Muertos vibe about it. You know, it's got the chica with the face paint, you know, with the skull. Kind of those vibes, if you know what I'm picturing there. I think Taco Lou has a similar logo, but it was really good. It was fun. I think we went to Jeremiah's after that and got a little bit of ice cream. So that was a pretty glorious night, no doubt. And I'll say the last highlight of the week was probably church this morning. So we served in the nursery. Me and Molly, we were greeters at the nursery, and they were doing VBS this past week, right? So all the VBS kids had a song that they were going to get up and sing. And so the people that were serving with the babies, they're like, hey, can you fill in for us for 10, 15 minutes? We're going to run next door and watch the kids sing. Yeah, sure, no big deal. We get in there, it's me and Molly and 2 other people. People show up, and there ends up being 10 babies. Not a good ratio, dude. Not a good ratio at all. So it was calm at first, and then one baby starts crying, and then the second one is like, what's that baby crying about? You know, they start getting a little upset because it's getting loud.
Right.
And another one catches on, and it gets louder and louder. And by then, it's just the sheer noise, the sheer volume that is making these kids cry. And it's absolute, I almost said listeria. It's just crazy. You know, it's hysterics all around. So I got 2 kids on my hips. I'm walking around bouncing them, trying to blow bubbles at the same time. I don't even have enough arms. So everybody's got 2 babies, and there's still 3 or 4 running around crying, and there's no help in sight. But thankfully, I think they have a floater, and like the lady that runs the nursery, our friend Anna, they hopped in. They were like, this is a lot of kids. I was like, you are correct. This is a lot of kids. So we put a couple of them on the stroller, took them for a walk. So that kind of split things up a little bit. And then finally the other 2 folks came back and relieved us. But it was mayhem for a solid 15, 20 minutes. And it was kind of funny. I was just laughing, because there's nothing you can do. You know, they're all just feeding off each other and just getting so overwhelmed. And I was just, you know, all you can do is laugh.
Yeah.
You know,
My buddy's doing, I should do it too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Talking about preschool peer pressure.
I will say this to brag on Stetson a little bit. He was the last one to cry. They were all crying except for him. We were blowing
Held out
bubbles.
strong.
He did. We were blowing bubbles earlier, and all these babies are crying, and he's just walking around just like, bubble, bubble, bubble.
Excuse me.
I was like, bud, I got my hands full. I would love to blow bubbles for you, but unfortunately, I cannot right now. So
do you not see this hot mess that your mom got us in right here?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh, but
Hey,
no,
praise
it was
God for lots of children.
Yeah,
That's a good signifier.
Mm-hmm.
no doubt. It was a great day, and a great week. It was good to have the folks in town for an extended stay.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, the yawns are back, though I will say that's the first one of the night, unlike last week.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Quit.
Well, no, sorry. It's contagious, just like the love. It's contagious.
Yeah. And the crying in the nursery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, songs of the week. What is a song you've listened to this week that is really on your mind? Andrew, I'll ask you first.
So I found myself this weekend just whistling This Is the Day the Lord Has Made. And I don't know where it came from other than Piper might have been singing it or something. But, just in my spare time, that's it. So that doesn't have to go on the playlist. But
But it will.
Oh,
and it does.
It
It will,
has to.
yeah.
It does
Yeah.
have to.
yeah, the kids version. So
That's a good one to clap to. That's one that we would start
Yeah.
off, in elementary school, we'd start that one off with a good clap. They'd try to get everybody's blood moving a little bit with that
Yep.
one. Dang. Well, Bo, what do you have?
I gotta go Faithful Then / Faithful Now by Chris Brown. And I think it's just quite beautiful is the constancy and consistency of God's faithfulness. It's quite a beautiful thing. That's why I'm going with it.
Good stuff.
How about you?
I'm going to go with That Lonesome Song by Jamie Johnson. I just remember that this dude existed for the first time in like 3 or 4 years. Obviously, he had the huge hit in Color. That was probably a decade ago at this point. I'm aging myself here, but I forgot that he existed. I looked him up and I was like, okay, this is a pretty good song. But he looks like a country bear. He's got a super big beard, long hair.
Yep.
I hadn't seen him in so long, but he used to be a handsome dude, but he is now officially a country bear. So,
Yep.
That's awesome. I look forward to hearing that. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we depart?
Just gonna try to love generously and deeply this week. So we got that court thing for my trailer incident tomorrow in the morning, so that'll be fun.
we'll be praying that works out for you.
hopefully it works out well.
Now, are you allowed to share any of those details due to the nature that the court case is not happened yet?
That it's an open investigation. No, my buddy got pulled over with my trailer, and I had the license plate in my truck. It was a homemade trailer, and the VIN plate has come off in the last 5 years, so they couldn't match the license plate that I provided to the trailer. So my buddy got a criminal citation for operating an unregistered motor vehicle. So we'll see. I have a copy of the registration for the trailer, and we're going to tell the judge, like, hey, the plate fell off because it did. Because in the state of Georgia, if you manufacture a homemade trailer, the deputy has to come inspect it, and the tag has to be on there. So it was on there. Everything was good. It just came off at some point. When he called me at 12:30 in the morning, I couldn't find the registration. I have the registration, so hopefully everything gets cleared up in the morning. So
Yeah, and I think on the case that they're reviewing, there's actually a notes section that said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it said something like, Andrew Williams arrives at scene at 1:15 a.m. with no clothes on. We assume that the swamp puppy took it off.
started with a nibble of the toe, you know. That was it. I had to cross the same river the lady was in to get there. So,
well,
yeah,
you'll
that's all
have
I
to.
got. It's been a pleasure again talking to you fellas.
Oh yeah, absolute gift. We look forward to hearing how that is. Andrew is one of our faithful supporters, but he's also just a faithful guy and friend who also seems to be related to us, luckily. And so, what a gift that is. Brett, any final closing words?
I don't think so. Just, I think if we could all be, I'm a faithful listener because it's my show, but, people that aren't necessarily affiliated with it, if we could all be as faithful as Andrew, I think this podcast would go great great links because he's out here telling folks about it. He's spreading the good news of the Quite Frankly podcast. He's out here doing it. So I would encourage all of our listeners to look at this man right here in the face and say, I need to be more like him.
Yeah. When I get upgrade my lawn trailer, I'll put sponsored by the Quite Frankly podcast.
That's what I'm talking about.
There you go.
And so we are same. It's the vice versa as well. Is we are now sponsored by Williams Lawn Care.
That's it.
And that's just a beautiful thing. So
I was trying to find my Quite Frankly t-shirt for this evening, but I couldn't find it. I'll have to send you all some Williams Lawn Care t-shirts.
That's right. There you go. And what a beautiful push to go buy merch.
Yep.
So here's how you can help us review our podcast, buy merch, tell a friend. If you're listening to that, we love it. Let us know what you think of the show in the comments. It really helps us improve the processes because we want to make it better for you because we want to love you deeply and generously, and that's why we're going to see you in 7 days.